Sure, my name is David or Dave Wallace. I reached the final rank of lieutenant in the United States Navy Reserve active duty. I was in college in a small school in the Midwest, and of course your choices back in those days were, you know, are you going to try to go to Canada, go in the Army and walk around in a rice field, or are you going to go do something else? I opted for something else in the Navy because they had really neat uniforms and I wouldn't end up in a rice paddy. Well, I was going to Kenyon College, which in today's whatever parlance is a very liberal, co-ed, tiny little liberal arts college in Ohio. Back then it was an all-men's school, Episcopal church related, and we had 2 SDS members, Students for Democratic Society, on campus out of 640 some. So we weren't exactly a liberal hotbed, but we weren't, you know, wild-eyed conservatives either, but that sort of was the educational background. You didn't have much choice in those days. If you wanted to wimp out, not be a man, you could try to get a physical waiver or something. So, oh yeah, I hurt my knees in football or whatever. You could run to Canada. You could try to, you know, I guess join a nursing corps, whatever. Or you could volunteer for the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. And I thought that the Navy sounded like a really cool deal. You know, you get, man, choker whites with a sword, you know, it doesn't get any better than that. It's a babe magnet. So I went over and talked to a Navy recruiter, and he is probably one of the 10 people in the world at that time outside of Ohio who'd ever heard of Kenyon College, and he said, oh, we got to get you in the program. And he went kind of crazy, and I mean, but he got me accepted right away, and so 9 months later I was off to OCS. The group that was our sort of upperclassmen, and upperclassmen in all military, boot camp, Naval Academy, ROTC, they're responsible to train you on the military side. Their job, in our case, was to completely break us down. I mean, this was the old military philosophy. Boot camp, squash them to the ground, beat everything out of them, and then build them back up the way we want them. OCS over the years has gotten a reputation for being quite easy and, you know, kind of a pleasure tour. It wasn't that way for us. We had our upperclassmen, as I started to say, were what was called in those days nines and kneecaps. We were all, what's this nines and kneecaps? Recruiter didn't say anything about that. Well, these were E9s who were going limited duty officer or warrant, and NESEPs, Navy Education Scientific something or engineering program. So these were all senior enlisted who were going through a commissioning process. These were guys that went through boot camp probably in World War II. It was rough. It was really rough. But they did. They just flattened us, and you stopped being a civilian. I mean, you knew you were in the Navy. You knew you were doing something different for a while. I guess in a way it was a very good experience. It didn't feel good at the time, but you learn to follow orders, but you also learn not to follow orders. And one of the things that, and I vaguely remember this, or vividly remember this, being taught not that you don't follow an illegal order. And don't you ever forget that, Mr. Wallace. No, sir, don't forget. You know, and then, well, what's an illegal order? And they'd give you examples of illegal orders. And, you know, if you give one, somebody ought to kick your butt. And if you follow one, you've just violated the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And that was ingrained in all of us. Plus we learned to march and, you know, 9-count marching manual and all that neat stuff. We learned to wear uniforms too, and we got swords. One of my instructors was a Navy lieutenant named Pete Moran, M-O-R-A-N, who I've since met several times at reunions. And he was one of the few instructors at OCS who any of us considered as a human being. And he taught, I think, seamanship or something like it. But he'd tell us stories occasionally about swift boats. Or if he could, I mean, you could tell when guys in khaki outfits come in and they're just completely drenched, soaked, and it's not raining out, you know that the company commander, who was one of these nines or nieces, has had him doing something pretty strenuous. And Mr. Moran, as we called him, would say, you know, it's going to be a light class today, guys. Just take it easy. And, you know, make sure we had water and stuff like that. He'd even take a few of us outside and have a smoke with us and things like this instead of class. And he just, you know, treated us kind of like humans. But he used to tell stories about swift boats, and I would ask, how do you get on these things? And I just always wanted it. And then, so I went to the Skagit, I got the qualifications. Oh, and that was funny. They drafted me off of the Skagit. Got a letter from my draft board at home in Pittsburgh. You were hereby ordered, or, you know, whatever, greetings. So the XO wrote him a nice letter. And then, but he said, well, what do you want to do? You know, we're going to be decommissioned here. And I said, I want to go to the swift boats. He said, are you nuts? And I said, no, that's what I want to do. So.